Good day, YouTube. I'm Daniel Claremont. I'm the Acadian therapist. Welcome back to lovely rural Nova Scotia. I hope that you're doing well. Folks will come to see therapists because they're looking for new tools, new strategies, new ideas for how to approach things. However, just as often, people already know that they don't want to do a certain thing, or they know that a certain thought is not accurate, is not fair, some belief about themselves or about the world, about their partner, and they just can't shake it. And so they've tried telling themselves again and again, and it doesn't work. And so they're looking for something new, and the hope is, and my experience is, therapy is effective in a lot of cases for getting those ideas to stick. But what's the trick to it? Why do we feel better talking to a therapist? Why do we sometimes feel better just venting to a friend? Well, that's what we're going to talk about today, as well as I have a guided activity for you that might help you practice looking at things in the way you want to see them instead of how you're used to seeing them. So, I hope you'll stick around. As always, if you see value in this content, please feel free to like, share, comment, subscribe. All these things help support my work here. Let's get to it. I have to be honest with you. The question of why and how therapy works really fascinates me. I can't get enough of theories and books and TED Talks and journal articles, trainings. I am always curious about different tools and strategies to help people and why they work. And a lot of really intelligent people have studied this for a really long time. There are a lot of different theories out there. Now, it's important to know that a lot of these strategies or interventions, it really is to your benefit to make sure that whoever you're hiring to work with you is very specifically trained in it. Take, for example, EMDR. So that's a kind of therapy. It's very good for trauma, but it is very specifically designed, and therapists are trained to work with you in a very specialized way to make sure that when you're accessing traumatic material, it doesn't become really overwhelming, it doesn't cause you harm. So sort of this interactive process with your body language. So we're trained to recognize what you're going through and help make sure you don't get swallowed up in it. And to a certain extent, that's the case with most of the interventions I'm trained in. And we've talked about some of these before, like internal family systems therapy. There's also narrative therapy, cognitive behavior therapy, acceptance and commitment therapy. So a lot of these interventions, it really is very important that the practitioner you're working with is specifically trained. However, it's also important to remember, I don't know about you, but I can think of some times that I have shared something that I'm struggling with, not with a professional, with a friend or a family member or a partner. And I feel a little better. I feel a little lighter afterwards. Why is that? Why is it that I can run the same thing in my own head again and again, and it doesn't really shift it? But if I share with someone else, it makes it go a little bit better. Well, for that, I'm going to talk about the idea of a state change. So when it's just you and your mind, your heart, you're having a thought. So let's say you think you're unlovable, all right? So you just feel, maybe as soon as I said that, you feel a little heavier. And then you tell yourself, well, that's nonsense, that's not true, or that's what your mom taught you, or that's what that first person who broke up with you in high school taught you. And so you believe deep down that you're not really lovable, you're not actually good enough. And it doesn't matter how often you tell yourself that, you still believe it. Well, what's happening there is you're having a thought. So you're thinking, something triggers you to believe, I'm not good enough, I'm not lovable. So Let's say you try to pay for your groceries and your card is declined, or it just doesn't read the card, and you feel that the cashier is kind of looking at you, or they sigh, they go, "Oh, really?" And this triggers a feeling of "I'm not good enough," and your body feels heavy. So what's happened there is you have a situation here in the present that triggers an old belief about yourself and maybe an old memory of yourself, which triggers these emotions. So that is autopilot. It's very automatic. And so your brain likes to keep doing what it's used to doing. We've talked about that before. So you keep reminding yourself accidentally, "I'm not good enough. I'm not lovable. People will reject me. People will judge me." And so rinse, repeat. You keep doing that. However, when you share with someone else, I am a therapist, so I'll use the example of talking to a therapist, but it could just as much be talking to a friend or a family member, a spiritual leader, a pet even. If you are sharing your story with someone, and that someone does not judge you the same way, they maybe respond with kindness or patience or curiosity when you confess something that you feel deep shame about. So if you feel, "Honestly, I'm unlovable and I've never shared that with anybody," and the other person accepts this with kindness, your brain has a new lesson. It has accessed this trauma, this belief, or this memory, but in an environment of safety and kindness. So it teaches you on a deeper level, I don't need to react the same way to this thought or feeling. Your body relaxes a little bit more. And the memory, that belief, gets stored a little differently. Now, usually one exposure is not enough. You would have to do this a few times. But this introduces a change in your internal state. So you're exposed to the idea or the thought that's bad, or that has always been bad, or toxic, and your body is a bit calmer. And so your brain knits this together, and this idea is changed, this idea about yourself or about the world, right? Just like if you believe everybody is selfish, nobody is kind, and then you encounter someone who is kind, your brain goes, "Huh, interesting." So usually we have to do this multiple times, but just the experience of talking and sharing in a safe space, putting aside all these other therapeutic tools I mentioned earlier, is going to start turning the ship. You're going to start feeling a little better about yourself. So I would say that is a reasonable enough theory for what is effective. And I have a particular activity that we're going to do today, if you're willing, that can help you introduce this state change for yourself. Let's get to it. Now, in an earlier video, I talked about affirmations. It was actually a guided relaxation, and I'll link to it below. You can access it if you want to try that activity. We're going to take a bit of a different spin on it. And now, what this activity is going to involve is something called affirmations. Affirmations are positive, inspiring statements that you want to believe. So some folks might have like the words live, laugh, love, or family is where the heart is, or whatever. Some of these sometimes cheesy things that you'll see written on the wall. Well, the reason why you do that, a wall decal or an inspirational plaque or something, it's a reminder. It's a prompt to remind you to think that. Last week's content, we talked about some strategies to remind yourself on a day-to-day basis of affirmations. And again, today we're going to use affirmations, but in a self-guided kind of way. So I'm just going to start listing some different affirmations over here, different beliefs that you might try to think about yourself. And as you see the different beliefs that come up, you can choose one of these, or maybe there's some that you already have. What you want to pay attention to when you see the words pop up on the screen, pay attention to your reaction. Do you resist it? Do you tense up? Or do you suddenly feel sad or discouraged? Believe it or not, that's a good sign. That is a belief that you are rejecting, or you're fighting on some level. So you could say in a way that you're a bit triggered by that. So pay attention to how you're reacting to the affirmations that come up on the screen, or maybe you already know what you'd like to believe about yourself. And write that down. So that is going to be what we're going to work on today. And so very shortly, I'm going to guide you into a state of relaxation, and the screen is going to fade. I'm going to invite you to leave your eyes open. You're welcome to let them drift closed. But the scene is a pond on my property. It was lovely last weekend. I thought it was very serene and a perfect setting for this activity today. So as you look at it, you're going to notice the still water. And allow yourself to relax into whatever surface you are sitting in or laying down on. And when you breathe in through the nose, breathe out through the mouth longer than you breathe in. And notice your state of relaxation. And at some point, you're going to see a splash. And when you see the splash and you hear the splash, you're going to remind yourself of the affirmation that stood out for you today. Whatever it is that you've been resisting, you're going to think that thought when you see the splash. And you're going to breathe in through the nose, breathe out through the mouth, breathing out longer than you breathe in. And watch as the ripples pass until the pond is still again. And notice how you're feeling. Notice that you're feeling a bit calmer. And every time you notice the splash, do the same thing. Breathe in through the nose, out through the mouth, breathing out longer than you breathe in, repeating the affirmation. Splash, affirmation, watch the ripples pass. Wait until the pond returns to stillness. Allow yourself to enjoy this feeling of relaxation, because you deserve this kindness, this space you're allowing yourself. Every time there's a splash, repeat the affirmation. Breathe in through the nose, out through the mouth, breathing out longer than you breathe in. Continue to enjoy this space, this feeling in your body, as long as you like, knowing that each time you repeat the affirmation, whatever that thought is you want to believe about yourself or about the world, when you breathe in through the nose, out through the mouth, breathing out longer than you breathe in, it becomes a bit more true for you. It becomes a bit more easy to believe. Finally, accepting this belief as you've always wanted to.